So, this is our What in the World, our segment. This is our This Week in Woke segment. This is just one of my favorite gifts. You've probably seen this. I throw this at some of you sometimes. But this is my reaction to some of the things that we're going to go through this evening. Now, I have informants. I have people who send me stuff, and people who send me stuff at really interesting moments. As Heather was asking me what we're going to go through tonight, I told her the kind of couple of things we're going to deal with, and she said, well, what about this, and what about this, and what about this? Well, you could go through a dozen of these kinds of things every single week. But a couple of these are important for a couple of reasons. I picked some of these so that they'll be instructive, gives us a chance to think through some of these issues and think through them biblically, think through them critically. So the very first one that you have there, I know on your sheet of paper it's very difficult to read, but it is a graphic that's been put out by the United Methodist Church about the myths and the truths about critical race theory. So now it's interesting that the United Methodist Church is putting out some sort of document or graphic on critical race theory, but some of you may know that I think it was about 3 years ago, it was before the pandemic, the United Methodist Church went through this gigantic upheaval for a couple of years. There was this question that was placed before their General Assembly, which is actually an international gathering of pastors and missionaries and ministers, and they show up to do business from all over the world. And then the question about same-sex marriage came up. And the first time it came up, it failed in large part because of the African pastors who had shown up to vote against accepting same-sex marriage in the United Methodist Church. Well, that just caused the American United Methodist Church to just lose their marbles. And some of the most racist articles that I have read in a long time were written by United Methodist Church theologians who were angry that Africans had a vote. I couldn't believe what I was reading. So they changed the way they structured their next meeting, and in their next meeting, it passed and didn't pass. But what the UMC ended up doing is they started an arbitration process in which one denomination was going to essentially split into three. So one was going to kind of be a conservative, traditional United Methodist Church. I can't remember what name they were going to give themselves. There was going to be one that sort of sat in the middle, and then the one that retained the logo and the UMC name and finances and so forth was the part of the church that had gone theologically liberal. So that's where some of the UMC churches are right now on the theological spectrum. So this one showed up. This one was sent to me just a little while ago. And I would like to take a look at some of the myths and truths about critical race theory. As I read through this, I thought to myself, wow, that's a lot of lies packed into one graphic. So I want to unpack this just a little bit so we can understand some of what's going on here. So up in the upper left-hand corner here, the myth, CRT is being taught or pushed in public school curricula. They say that's the myth. They say the truth is it's not in a single K through 12 school. It is, I know, it's some of the mothers in the room have to stifle their harumphs because some of you have actually already sent me the CRT curriculum that's inside of the public school systems here in the Colorado Springs area. So I say, well, it's it's just sometimes taught on graduate levels. This is the line. We've run into this 100 times now. This is the line they give you, while with the other hand, like a magician, they're putting all of this stuff in K through 12 curriculum all over the United States. And they blow smoke and they change the name and they move some vocabulary around, but it's all over the place. So they, it's nowhere. It's absolutely nowhere. Teaching about racial inequity is new. That's the myth. I'll talk about why that's a certain kind of lie here in a second. Myth, CRT is racist against white people. That's not a myth. That is literally true. CRT is revenge racism. That's just all it is. One guy who deals with CRT a lot. He says, this is the best definition of critical race theory you will ever hear. Call everything racist until you're in control of it. That's the best definition you will hear. Just call everything racist until you control it. And so what you do is racist, but you're in control of it, so you can't call it racist. CRT, the myth, CRT seeks to divide our nation. That's in fact the truth. It is actually exactly what it's trying to do. It's part of the plan. Myth, color blindness and not focusing on race is the best way to address racism. I want to describe again what kind of lie that is, because that one is a little bit more fuzzy. Bottom right-hand corner, CRT is anti-Christian and conflicts with biblical teaching. We've gone through that in detail. They call it a myth. It is just objectively true that CRT is anti-biblical and conflicts constantly with the biblical worldview. And we've gone through some of that in tremendous detail. So if we were playing a game, the game would be, can you spot the falsehoods? Can you spot what's wrong with all of this? So I think there are at least 4 open falsehoods. The ones in the corner, I think, are just bald-faced lies. Now, when these kinds of lies show up, especially something that is as objectively falsifiable as there's not one single K through 12 school that uses this kind of curriculum. That's a bald-faced lie, and everybody knows it now. So the question is, why would you say that? Why would you publish that? You have no way of proving it, and I have another insider document to show you here in just a second that I got while I was standing in line for bagels at lunch today. But this is the question we need to keep asking ourselves, because I believe there are answers to this question. The answer is significant. Why? Why say these things? Into these things? Why would you do it when it's so obviously false? Okay? The ones in the corner, just open falsehoods, not even trying to mask the lie. It's as if they are daring you to disagree with them in public. I just dare you to disagree with me. The other two, the two in the middle, are what we might call framing falsehoods. So here's what happens when you have a framing falsehood. The lawyer asks you while you're sitting on the stand in court, when did you stop beating your wife? You've never beat your wife before, but the question assumes what? You've been beating your wife, and I want to know when you stopped, right? And you're suddenly back. Yeah, the moment the framing is posed that way, it puts you on the defensive, and you start backing up and going, no, wait. I got to figure out how to sort of pull out of this. When you frame something like this, you pose the issue as if there is really only one answer to the problem, and it's the one that I posed. There's really only one solution, and the solution is the one that I imply. And if you disagree with me, then you're a racist, or you don't understand how history works, or you believe something as stupid as we've never taught about racial problems in school. We've never taught about these things until now. See, these implications are designed to make you think, well, I don't want to be one of the stupid people, so I should believe what's going on here, right? So everything on this graphic is a magnificent example of how critical theory works inside of the church. It's a magnificent example. It makes you feel like a fool for disagreeing with any of this. When with just few minutes worth of reflection and work, you can kind of go, well, all of this is just wrong. I don't have to believe in any of this at all. We can teach about racism and we can deal with racist issues without even touching critical race theory whatsoever, okay? So another source this afternoon, this one up here, CRT is not taught in a single K through 12 public school. So this was sent to me by one of our high schoolers today. He was taking a test in politics, a politics class. It was a kind of evaluation/exam. And he said, hey, this is where I'm getting interesting questions. I'm getting interesting entries in this exam. And so why on earth would this, your reaction to our race has many superior qualities compared with other races, be inside of a politics and a political exam, a politics class and a political exam. Why would it be? Well, because CRT is being taught. CRT is being dealt with. Okay, now here's another magical little thing. So whoever wrote this up in the upper left-hand corner says, CRT is not taught in a single K through 12 school. When someone makes an argument with that kind of vocabulary, what is the only thing you have to do to prove that 100% false? All you have to do is come up with one. They didn't even soften the blow by saying CRT is not taught in most K through 12 schools. Or CRT is only taught in some progressive K. They said not a single one, which actually makes it a really easy claim to falsify. All you have to do is come up with one. This afternoon, standing in line at Einstein Bagels downtown, when I start laughing to myself while I'm looking at my phone, we found one. We know this to be false, but I just, I feel good about having sources. Go ahead, sir. Isn't that interesting? Or has it asked you your race and then later, and so this is online, right? So this kind of online exam, this data is not just being given to the teacher, this data is being given to the organization that publishes this exam. What is your race and what is your answer to this? Yeah. Okay. I'm actually on YouTube, so I have to be very careful about whatever else I say here. So this one, I want to make sure we talk about this one a little bit. All right, so some of you saw this. The nominee for the Supreme Court, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, holds some really interesting views, including she's a little soft on pedophilia. That's a whole other story. But maybe the most dramatic moment in her question and answer session, her confirmation hearings, she was asked this question: can you provide a definition of the word woman? She said, no, I can't. The senator said, you can't? Part of her answer included, I'm not a biologist. So in this context, I cannot provide an answer to that question. The reason the question was asked, now get this, the reason the question was asked, at least in part, is that Justice Jackson oversees the curriculum for a very exclusive elementary school called Georgetown Elementary. The curriculum at Georgetown Elementary is hardcore critical race theory curriculum. So one of the senators was assigned to ask, a couple of these kinds of questions. It's not even a gotcha question. It's just can we actually get her to say something like this question? And she said it. Now, okay, she says it, and we always have to keep asking ourselves the question, why does somebody like this say something like this in public? What do we do with this? So she says it, and as if on cue, several organizations, and then you've got talking heads on TV, you've got published media and so forth, begin massaging her answers or telling the rest of us that, her answer really wasn't all that off base, because all kinds of smart, intelligent people tell us that the answer's not all that clear about the difference between men and women. So it's not just one individual who sort of sits in this weird political, ideological spectrum. It has become a media defense of this answer that it's not hard to find these articles. So the day after, as if they had this written, USA Today, Marsha Blackburn asks Ketanji Brown Jackson to define woman. Science says there's no simple answer. What's the move there? You guys are getting to know how these moves work. What's the move there in that headline? It's what's called an appeal to authority. That headline might as well say, people who know more than you do say that the answer's not as simple as you might think it'd be. So the point there is to make you and I go, well, okay, there must be I just, I am not a biologist. I'm not. So maybe I don't know the answer to this question. Now, this gets really interesting because part of this article is backpedaling on something she may not have intended to say, because she's implying that there is a biological answer to this question. If there's a biological answer to this question, she has defeated herself. She has said something that has contradicted what she is implying in this statement. So then you go, oh, well, let's just go find ourselves a middle school biology textbook. Let's just do that. So this article, by the way, backpedals on that. So here's one of the paragraphs inside of that. Again, I know you can't read it in your sheets, but here's what it says. Scientists, you just got to love that. Hey, we've got a biology textbook right here we can take a look at. Scientists, science. And then the next couple of phrases let you know what we're talking about. Gender law scholars and philosophers of biology, some of whom are... Okay, yeah, no Oxford comma, so we don't know who we're talking about. Said Jackson's response was commendable, though perhaps misleading. It's useful, they say, that Jackson suggested science could help answer Blackburn's question, but they note that a competent biologist would not be able to offer a definitive answer either. Scientists agree there is no sufficient way to clearly define what makes someone a woman, and with billions of women on the planet, there is so much variation.
That last sentence invalidated itself.
Yes.
In the sentence itself, it says, I can't define a woman, but I just said there's billions of them.
There's billions of women in the world.
We can tell which ones are women.
You cannot get away from reality. As much as you try, you can't get away from reality. What qualifies? That's, yeah. What qualifies you to be a woman? How is Justice Jackson going to interpret Title IX? How is, and on and on and on and on and on. Okay, so now, in all seriousness, another sort of follow-up question to this is, does she really believe what she said? Does she believe what she said? And if she does not believe this, we're back to a question that we asked a few minutes ago. Why lie so transparently? Why? Why would you do this? Well, it's not even just dodging the question. I think it's ideologically, it's a plan. It's a scheme. It's a way of actually doing things. Okay? So, are you a woman? I know you could just immediately, what qualifies? So, asking her, in your nomination to this, did President Biden nominate a woman to this? Of course, maybe, well, I self-identify as, who knows, right? How many of you know what this picture is? The Kardashians. All right, so there's this old Star Trek, The Next Generation episode where Captain Picard is captured by this alien race of Kardashians, not the Kardashians, but the Kardashians, and they're trying to get information out of him, and so it's actually a fairly intense episode to watch, where he's essentially in a torture chamber with these 4 lights shining on him. And every time the Kardashian inquisitor asks him how many lights there are, and he says 4, he receives a degree of torture. And every time he says 4, the torture goes up and up and up and up and up and up. And so he wants the alien wants Captain Picard to say that there are 5 lights instead of 4. And he just refuses to say 5. And of course, at the very end, he's rescued and everything's fine, and there's really only 4 lights. It's an incredible episode for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's pulled right out of George Orwell's 1984. The main character is broken at the end of the book with the same question. Instead of lights, it's fingers. 4 versus 5 fingers. And you get out of this if you lie. You get out of this if they can break you into actually speaking the lie or believing the lie or accepting the lie. They know you've broken you. In the episode, the Star Trek episode, they're after, I think it was military intelligence, something like that. But they're not asking him questions about military intelligence. They're trying to break his will by getting him to admit a lie. And the idea is, if we can get someone to accept a lie, we've got them. We've broken their integrity. We've broken their character. We have a hold of their soul. Now we can make them say and do whatever we want them to do. In the episode, they're not after how many lights are there. They know. It's not they're asking Captain Picard, we don't know how many lights are in this. It's like asking you right now, how many lights are in the ceiling? I don't know, right? Well, some of you count them during my sermons, I know. I'm just kidding. That's right. That's how long my sermons are. The content of the lie does not matter. It doesn't matter. Any lie will do. If someone can get you to accept the lie to be true, to repeat a lie as true, to believe a lie is true, they can get you to do whatever they want you to do. Okay? Lights are not the issue. Military intelligence is. The definition of a woman, is that the issue? Well, it's part of the issue, but something else is the issue. And that something else is, can we get you to do whatever we want you to do? I'm going to just guess that Justice Jackson does not believe what she said. She spoke the lie. And it's, this is a different thing than just saying, my neighbor's cousin's second brother said this. And then we all just jump into a, frenzied flurry, and, the walls of culture are burning down. It's a nominee to the Supreme Court who said this on record before the U.S. Senate who said, right? That's what we're talking about. If she does not believe this, why did she say this? Because it's part of the package of pushing the lie on enough people to get enough people to believe the lie, accept the lie, repeat the lie, defend the lie. Because then they can get you to believe and do anything they want. So the point is to get the masses to accept the lie, repeat the lie, then believe the lie. And this happens all the time. So-called experts are used along the way to create a sense of inferiority and fear of being stupid among the masses. Well, you're not a scientist. You're not a gender law expert. You're not a philosopher of biology. How would you know the answer to the question, what is a woman? How would you know, right? It's intended to make you feel like they know and I just don't. When in fact, all of us know, we know. And somehow they don't for whatever sets of reasons. So this author we come back to every now and then, Hannah Arendt, one of the most significant philosophers of the 20th century. She wrote this magnificent book. We quote it from time to time, The Origins of Totalitarianism. She deals phenomenally with this sort of thing. She saw right through how both Nazism and communism worked and why so many people went along with both. And then hundreds of millions of people died. I'm not talking about World War II. I'm talking about them killing their own people, hundreds of millions of them between Nazism, Stalin, and China, Mao's China. Hundreds of millions of their own people slaughtered by their leaders. Why do you go along with that? So this book deals with that phenomenally. This is one long, confusing sentence, so let's make our way through this. Here's part of what she says. The chief value, however, of the secret or conspiratory society's organizational structure, being on the in, being one of the people in the know, in the inner circle. If you're woke, you get it, okay? It's that kind of thing. The chief value of the secret or conspiratory society's organizational structure and moral standards for purposes of mass organization to get people to do stuff does not even lie in the inherent guarantees of unconditional belonging and loyalty. You follow us, we'll take care of everything, we'll bring about all the social justice you want. An organizational manifestation of unquestioned hostility to the outside world. You're a good guy, everyone else is a bad guy. She said the chief value is not in any of that, but in their unsurpassed capacity to establish and safeguard the fictitious world through consistent lying. This is their greatest power. It's not telling you, I'm going to take care of you. It's not telling you you're a good guy, everyone else is a bad guy. It's not telling you that you're on the in and they're on the out. It's that they have constructed a world that is completely fictitious, and they repeat the lie often enough to just get enough people to follow suit. So this is necessary for the Antichrist and what he will do. How is it that so much of the world will fall into lockstep? Well, we're reading it. We may be watching how some of the patterns actually happen. One of the characteristic traits of the last several years of this kind of thing culturally, if you sort of have been attentive to these things or bothered by these things, you keep asking yourself the question, well, how did we get here? We weren't even here 2 years ago. No one thought this was serious 4 years ago. And when you say now that pedophilia is going to be normalized, people still mock you, and now we have a nominee to the Supreme Court who says, that's a really fuzzy line. I'm not even sure who's a pedophile. Here we are. What's that? That's my paraphrase of what she says. It has to do with a lot of the rulings that she gave to 18-year-olds who were distributing child porn of 8-year-olds. And she said, you know what, you're close enough in age that I'm not going to call it pedophilia. Again, no joke, part of the record. These are the things that she's written and done. And she will be on the Supreme Court. So, what's that? And there's a lot of progressive Christians out there right now in their very popular podcast saying, you know what she said was really not all that bad. You have to step back and you have to think about it for a minute or two. I don't think there's any reason to step back and think about this for a minute or two. Here's some more of what Hannah Arendt says. I love this stuff. The elite is not composed of ideologists. Okay, now this is language that for us is a little stilted. She's saying these aren't people who are genuinely experts in their field. The members of the elite, their whole education is aimed at abolishing their capacity for distinguishing between truth and falsehood, reality and fiction. If I dropped this mic, it wouldn't make much of a noise, but there it is. I think she's exactly right. It was true of the Nazis, it was true of the communists under Lenin and Stalin, and it's true of a lot of the elite in the academic, legal, and educational world right now as well.
Well, it's obviously true from all of the philosophical biologists or biological philosophers.
There were gender law study theorists and then philosophers of biology.
Philosophers of biology. Has anyone ever heard of one?
There are some really good philosophers of biology out there, but then there are some others that are obviously not. So what to do? I keep kind of coming back to this question. What is there to do about this? And there are, I think, a lot of ways of dealing with this kind of question, but a few of these. Recognize this as an assault on God's created order. God created one distinction between human beings. Human beings have created all of the rest of them. The one distinction that God created was between male and female. We're trying to do our best to erase that one distinction and create divisions amongst every other difference that human beings have. So this is just straightforward an assault on God's created order. Don't let the cultural pressure distract you or cause fear. Because you read certain things, you talk to certain folks, the pressure is real, you at least feel it. Some people struggle in their jobs because of it. Don't let it distract you or bring you fear, because God's truth always wins. Reality always wins. Now, that doesn't mean there's not going to be some, rubble between now and then, but reality always wins. Pray, and I meant to add pray and love, because here's something else that her answer to that question does. It does significant harm to people who are genuinely struggling with their sexual identity. So gender dysphoria is a real thing. These struggles can be very real for some people, and they're being taught by her answer and everything her answer represents that hormonal therapy, surgical therapy is actually going to fix the psychological and emotional problems that you feel. And as far as the actual science goes, that's just not true. So a lot of these folks who deserve a different kind of love and attention and care through this packet of lies that are being fed to us, they're actually being done more harm under the guise of being, done more good. So pray and love. The prince of the power of the air is powerfully at work right now among the susceptible. It just really is. In all kinds of ways. The one, our enemy, who has a certain level of power and influence in this world right now is at work in really, really powerful ways. The faithful church sticks, stays, moves forward, prays, loves, holds to the truth. The truth will set us free. We speak the truth in love. We love people the way that Christ wants them loved. That's what we do. The world does all of this stuff, and we just keep moving forward. And I've said it before, I heard it once, and I think that this is, in a lot of ways, this is true. The next refugee crisis that the American church is going to have to deal with is our refugees from the sexual revolution. So people who are being duped and broken by all of this, and in some cases, physically and emotionally destroyed by all of this, the church has to be there. The church has to be there. In all kinds of ways. So,